after her arrest, did you ask her to sign over the deed, sign the deed to your house back to you?
Yes.
And what was her response?
No.
Do you see the defendant, the person that we've talked about, do you see her in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you describe her by an article of clothing, please?
Defense stipulates to identification.
I'd ask you to identify the defendant.
I'll let him identify.
Go ahead.
Green sweater?
I'd ask the record to reflect the in-court identification of the
The
defendant.
record will reflect that the defendant has been identified and also it's been stipulated.
Okay. And the items that you testified to, did they occur here in Palm Beach County?
Excuse me?
What you testified to, everything you testified to, they occur here in Palm Beach County?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Claypool, anytime you're ready.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Afternoon, Mr. Dippolito.
Hello.
It's nice to meet you.
You too.
You're from Philadelphia originally?
Yes.
Phillies fan?
Yes.
Okay. I grew up in Pennsylvania. Pirates fan. Years of,
Torment.
20 years of agony if you're a baseball fan. Is Miss Laurie representing you as your attorney in the case?
Who?
Miss Laura Laurie. She's the young lady that just questioned you. Is she your lawyer in the case?
No.
Have you met with her before testifying in the case?
Can you explain what do you mean? Like?
Yeah, did you have any meetings with either Miss Laurie or Mr. Craig Williams?
Oh, yeah, before we came in here.
Yeah. What type of meeting did you all have?
Certain things I can say and can't say.
Where did you meet? In the state prosecutor's office?
Yes.
Okay. When did that take place?
Yesterday? Or no, I'm sorry. Monday, like 5 o'clock. Yeah.
And you discussed your testimony today?
Yes.
As of August 5th, 2009, Ms. Laurie just asked you a question about the title, and this was a townhome, correct?
Yes.
All right. So the title to the property was already in Dalia Dippolito's name as of August 5th, 2009, correct?
Yes.
Now, you mentioned some vehicles that you've owned. I think you mentioned you've had a Corvette, correct?
I didn't say that, but I
You
had one.
You had a Corvette.
Yes.
Yeah, I apologize. And a Porsche, correct?
Yes.
Did you ever consider, before purchasing any of these vehicles, using some of the money to pay some of the victims that you swindled?
No.
And isn't it true, Mr. Dippolito, that most of the money until recently that you used to pay off some of these victims was actually taken out of your refund by the IRS? In other words, you had your refund
Okay.
liened. Is that correct?
Not the first part, but
Maybe you can explain that for me. It's getting late.
that money, my victims in Palm Beach or Broward County got none of that money from my tax return. I had to pay it twice.
Wasn't there also a civil lien that was? Is that true?
Yes.
And that was separate then also from the amount of money that was determined that you needed to repay in the criminal proceeding, correct?
The civil lien came first, and then they took those civil lien people into Broward County Court and charged me criminally. So I had, basically I have to pay the money twice technically. Yes.
Right. I believe you testified earlier today that I believe you were arrested in 2002, was it?
Right around there, yes.
Okay, all right. And I believe you had testified that that was your first run-in with the law.
Felony, yes.
I thought I heard you say it was your first run-in with the law.
I might have worded it that way.
Yeah. You were arrested in 1993.
Yes.
Mr. Dippolito, isn't it true that in 1993 in Philadelphia, you were arrested for possession and manufacture with intent to deliver an unknown drug?
Yes.
And in fact, a bench warrant.
Objection.
Sustained as to that question.
Did you ever appear?
Objection.
All right, just approach for a minute.
Mr. Dippolito, isn't it true that in 1997 in Broward County, Florida, you were arrested for soliciting prostitution?
Yes.
And you pled guilty? I'm sorry. I apologize, Your Honor. I'll withdraw that question.
I move to strike.
Yeah, and I apologize.
Just disregard the
I
last
apologize
question.
that.
We're not going back on the other thing? Or we're past that?
Mr. Dippolito, there's not a pending question. You have to wait for
Oh.
Mr. Claypool's question, and
Okay.
then you can respond, and Ms. Laura will have a chance to ask anything up and follow up.
Mr. Dippolito, you had, excuse me, testified that you recently paid off the restitution, correct?
Yes.
And your lawyer filed a motion with the court on, or your lawyer actually obtained an order on May 15th of 2017 to have your probation ended, correct?
Yes.
And that's very close in time to this trial taking place, correct?
Yes.
Is that because you wanted to walk into the courtroom and tell the jury that?
Improper question.
Overruled.
Isn't it true that one of the reasons why you finally paid off restitution to all of these victims that you swindled money from was because you could walk into the courtroom in this trial and tell the jury that you're no longer on probation?
No.
Can you give the jury then a rational explanation for why it took, my math is bad, 15 years for you to pay the restitution to the victims you swindled money from?
Yes. Do you want me to?
Yeah, sure. Tell me. Or tell the jury, please.
I had a term of 2 years of prison, which I served. I was released. I had 28 years of probation. In order to early term probation, you must serve half your sentence. Half of my sentence was up in the middle of last month. So right at that point, it deemed me, I wasn't asking for early termination just because I had the money. I was halfway through my sentence with no violations, and I had all the money. And I walked in, and they let me go.
Well, you've heard of a company called Mad Media, right?
Yes.
I think you talked about that, right?
Yes.
You made in 1 year at Mad Media $128,000, correct?
Yes.
All right. Did you use any of that, or isn't it, strike that, isn't it true that you didn't use any of that $128,000 to pay back the restitution victim?
That's not true.
Well, isn't it true that you didn't report to the probation officer income that you were generating from Mad Media?
I reported my income, but I might not have reported $127,000.
Right, well, in fact, you were reporting about $2,800 a month, right?
It would go from 28 to 6,000 a month.
You started at $2,800 a month, correct?
Yeah,
You were paying, I think you started paying about $55 a month, is that right?
that was way before when I came home first. Yeah.
Now, we talked, well, let me back up. Where was the source of the, I apologize, was it $238,000 for the town? Is that right?
Yeah.
All right.
Objection relevance.
What,
Hold on. All right, approach.
Mr. Dippolito, if you were only making about $2,800 a month, how is it that you came up with $238,000 of cash to pay for the townhome?
That was over a few years. I've been squirreling money away.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I've been putting money away for a few years.
Okay. Where were you putting that money away? Was it in the safety box?
It would run through my account, and I would draw cash and put it in my safety deposit box.
And did you report the money that you had put away over the years to the state and federal government for purposes of paying back the restitution victims?
You mean probation?
Yeah,
Right.
anybody, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't report all my income, no.
Okay, thank you. We heard a lot of testimony about this $100,000, was it $100,000?
Originally, yes.
All right. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but are you kind of saying that you think that Dalia Dippolito took that money from you?
I know she did.
All right, well, if you know she did, why is it that in your marital and property settlement agreement, you didn't mention anything about this $100,000?
Cost,
Hold on. Approach.
Would you like me to repeat the question, or I think,
Could you?
yeah, I'd be happy
Forgot
to.
where we left off.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Mr. Dippolito, if you believed that your ex-wife, Dalia Dippolito, had taken $100,000 from you, why is it then that you didn't make that claim for the money in your marital and property settlement agreement?
I was told that your
Well,
wife,
Your Honor, I'd like to ask the court for an instruction not to have Mr. Dippolito tell us what he was told by anybody, but rather just tell
Well,
me
that's the only way he can answer the question. It's the only way, you're asking him, why did he do something? So,
Well, I think it may call for hearsay. It's
approach.
Mr. Dippolito, I'll make it easy on you. It's getting late. I'm going to withdraw that question and just ask you a different question. But by the way, and I apologize, I should have laid a better foundation. Have you seen the marital and property settlement agreement?
maybe once.
Your Honor, may I identify as Defense Exhibit 1 for identification?
For ID purposes?
Yeah, for identification purposes, the marital and property settlement agreement? May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Take a look at it for a minute or two, and then maybe look at the signature page too. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Does Exhibit 1 refresh your recollection as to having signed a
Oh, yes.
marital and property
Yes,
settlement agreement?
yes.
So is Exhibit 1 the agreement that you had with Dalia Dippolito to resolve the distribution of any assets as part of your divorce?
Yes.
Right. So isn't it true that in Exhibit 1, you agreed to waive any rights you had to any monetary claims against Dalia Dippolito?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Your Honor, I'd like to mark for identification purposes Defense Exhibit 2. And may I approach?
Yes.
You can take a look at Exhibit 2, and after you've had a chance to look at it, if you could let me know. Have you ever seen Exhibit 2 before?
Yeah.
Okay, what is Exhibit 2? Tell the jury.
Cashier's check that me and Dalia went and got for my house.
Well, that's the cashier's check to buy the townhome, right?
Yes.
All right, and whose name is on the cashier's check?
Dalia's.
It's Dalia, correct?
Yes.
So you took your cash and you gave it to Dalia and then had a cashier check made through Dalia's name to pay for the townhome, correct?
I took the cash to the bank, had a cashier's check made. We put it in Dalia's name.
Yeah. And isn't it true that you put it in Dalia's name because you didn't want probation to know that you were using the $238,000 to go buy a townhome as opposed to paying back the folks that you had swindled money from? Isn't that true?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit more about the charges that were brought against you in connection with the how How would you describe it? The organized fraud?
It was a fake commodities room. We weren't selling commodities, we were selling air. That's just pretty simple as it can be described. Yeah.
And the Do you remember how many charges were initially brought against you?
I would have to say probably more than 3,
Right.
but when I got sentenced, it was 3 that were left.
All right, so, right, let me run through the actual charges, and I think you pled guilty to, was it 2 or 3 charges?
3.
3?
Yes.
Mr. Dippolito, the first charge that was brought against you was what's called communications fraud. Do you remember that?
Yes.
The second charge was entitled unlicensed telemarketing, correct?
Yes.
And that meant that you were actually telling people that you were a licensed telemarketing agency, but you actually were not licensed, correct?
No.
Is that?
No, we weren't.